Ragans. Rodriguez runs, and that is a called third strike.
I am here with one of the new aces in the major leagues, Cole Ragans. What is up, Cole?
What's going on?
Do you have a baseball with you? I'd love to talk
I
about
do.
some grips. Awesome. You came prepared.
Yeah, I did. I did. Traditional four seam, not just normal four seam, and then it kind of just I slightly adjust my fingers to like, so if it's here for a four seam, I'm just going here for a cutter. Like I'm just offsetting the four seam. And then for a changeup, I'm just traditional four seam circle change.
Do you
Like it's
pronate
not
it?
that
Are you pronating
I'm
or
a
straight?
I'm a big pronator. Like some guys are supinators, some guys are pronator. I'm a big pronator. So it's just kind of I grip it like this and I just try to throw it. Like and I just, sometimes I think pronate, sometimes I'm just like I just need to keep, hand speed, arm speed, and like let the grip do the work.
Because your changeup is surprisingly extremely filthy. Has that always been a pitch that you've been able to throw?
Since I got into pro ball, it was like a big emphasis when I got drafted. I'd throw changeups with a softball because it makes you pronate, like it makes you stay on top of the ball and kind of like pronate. Because if you try to throw it like this, you're launching that softball and nowhere near your partner.
I
So it
have
just
never heard that cue. I love it.
yeah, I don't know. I started throwing it with a softball when I first got drafted, and it just kind of you know, and even throughout like I don't know, a year or two after I got drafted, there was like I remember a week vividly where it was like um I was struggling with my changeup. Like I felt like I was like cutting myself off, and like one of my cues was like, all right, I pulled the softball back out, threw like five, felt it, and then went back to the baseball, and I was good. And it's like now I have like other cues and stuff that I use. Like it's more so where are my hands at? Where like I need to like throw it. I need to stop like babying it, stuff like that. But yeah.
You seem like you think a lot about everything, every aspect of the game, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I watch a lot of stuff. I do, I watch a lot of video before starts. I have my own little notebook, and I'll brainstorm. I'll like do my own notes and then I brainstorm with the catchers and the pitching coaches and stuff like that and see what they have. And, a lot behind the scenes, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so going back to your cutter, how did you learn that grip?
So 2021, my first year back, I started throwing a slider, but it was like I couldn't throw it hard. Like it was like, you know, high 70s, and I was like, I want something harder. And I was like, yeah, the movement's good, but I could not throw it hard. So my pitching coach at the time in high A, he was like, try this, just offset your four seam and just rip it. And I remember like the first game I threw it, it clicked. I was like, holy cow, like I was using it more as like a slider than a cutter, and I was like, wow, that's I threw it at like I mean at the time I'm throwing fastballs at like 93, maybe 94, and it's like I just threw it this cutter slider thing at 90, and I'm like and I got a swing on it, and I'm like, wow, that was good, and so kind of ran with it, and then as I've gotten older, it's like, all right, now I'm gonna turn this into like a true cutter, and then I developed the slider last year, so it's like, all right, now I have distinction between the two, and then yeah.
So what's funny is so the way you're describing your cutter is actually the way I would teach it to folks when I'm trying to teach a cutter.
Mhm.
I've heard talking to Greg Maddox, so this kind of blew my mind is he thinks of a cutter as a slider, but he throws it off his index finger instead of his middle finger. So it breaks, so you can't make it break as much. So it automatically will cut instead of slide. And I was like, I've never heard anybody say that. Just like I've never
Yeah.
heard anybody learn a changeup by throwing a softball. It's some cool
Yeah.
stuff.
So it's no, I feel like I mean, like I said, everybody kind of has a different thought process of how they use it, and some guys like I just felt like with me, it was like the cutter wasn't moving enough against lefties. Like lefties were just, and if I didn't get on top of it or over the front of it to get it to actually cut a little bit, it was like just a spinner up there. and then they whack it. And so, yeah, I just try to think. I mean, with the cutter, like it's just like essentially like I try to get over the front of the ball, but I'm also thinking like I'm gonna throw this just like a fastball. I'm just gonna think, at the very end, just get over the front, just a tick.
Gotcha. And your slider, which is, a lot of people learn the slider kind of early, and it's you incorporate it later, and it's a filthy pitch as well.
Yeah, no. So I learned that last year. I had my first start with in Omaha after I got traded. I like lefty. I think I gave up. I've told a few people this. I gave up like 8 hits, six to lefties. Like couldn't really get any swing and miss from the lefties. Like it was like sitting hard. And so me and my pitching coach in Omaha at the time, I asked him about it, and then he talked to the guys in the big leagues, and we toyed around with a grip, found a grip, and just ran with it. And it's like if this is the front of the ball, like so I spike my curveball just like this, and then all the slider is I'm just going over here, and I'm basically putting my like this corner. I'm trying to get in the camera.
Yeah,
This
there you go.
corner right here. I'm just trying to get my middle finger, like the pad of my middle finger, into that, and so then I literally choke it, and like so I'm like that.
Gotcha.
And
And
then
and
I'm just thinking like rip it literally like this, like almost like this part of the ball. I don't want to rip straight over the front. I don't want to rip straight on the side. I want to rip like in between. And then it's, I get a little depth. Because I don't want like a sweeper. I don't want straight with this way. And I also don't want like straight this way.
yep.
So it's kind of that happy medium in between.
Yeah, interesting. And your knuckle curve is it's a spike grip. Is that
Yeah,
something
it
you've always
just
thrown? The knuckle curve?
I've messed with every curveball grip known to man, I think, throughout my
That's most
since
pitchers.
pro ball. Like I had a good curveball in high school, but got to pro ball, just lost it. And I've gone through, I've tried everything. I've tried putting my finger here and spiking it like this. I've tried, two fingers here, and then I went back to this one last off season, just spiking it, and just I actually talked to I got to spring training last year, and Jack Leiter, I was watching him throw a pin. I had just finished. I watched his last few pitches, and he has a really good curveball. Like it's like just straight down. And I was like, "What is?" I just asked him, not a grip or anything. I just asked him like, "What's your thought process when you're throwing that?" And he basically told me he's like, "I'm trying to throw it with the front, like this, essentially." Physically, if you watch, like if you slow it down, like nobody really, like some guys can do this, but like that's my thought process. But all it does is like it helps you get to the front of the ball. And so yeah, just I try to think that when I throw it.
And
And you watch, like if you watch like the guys with really good curveballs and they're coming up, it's like you can almost see like that getting to the front of the ball.